Alright, it's time to do the arms and the legs. So first thing that I want to do is save this as version 7, because we currently have a functioning set for the core. So now we are doing a new set, a new save file that allows us to change things. And actually this brings up something now. So right now when I move this now, everything's messed up, and that's because all these things are being constrained. So just like with before, let's actually move our controls under the anim global. So we'll just do the control, hit P, and now, again, oh, wait, did I miss a few? Yeah, I have a few missed. So I need to actually add this to my controls group. Okay, so they're all in the controls group now, so let's just select the group, anim global, hit P, and now that should work. Scale, yep. Everything's working, so that looks good. Hit save. Alright, let's see. Let's do the hands first. So for these, I'm going to use the box. So I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to middle mouse drag it out of here. You can see that added it to the anim global group. I actually didn't want that, so I'm going to kind of pull it back out. Actually, I might have to go on top. Alright, so I'll do that, and we're going to call this anim L arm. And let's set this to 0 for now. And we're actually going to want to snap this to our IK handle. So the limbs actually get a little bit more complicated because we're going to have two sets of control going on. So this is kind of tough because she's a really tiny little character here. So a lot of these things are pretty close to each other. But at the same time, her gloves are kind of enormous. So I'm going to try to figure out a good shape. Still keeping it very simple, just as like a box essentially. But so let's get the pivot in there first. That's actually fine. That gives us plenty of room. So for this one, just for my own kind of the way that I want it to look, I'm just going to do a little bit of a rotation offset on this. You don't have to do this. It's just, for me, it's for visual kind of makes things a little easier to look at. And let's make sure it's still on that pivot. And it is. Again, we want it pivoted to the IK handle, which is also in the identical same space as the wrist bone. So with that done, before doing anything else, I'm actually going to duplicate this to the other side because I want to use some of these values. So I'm going to show you two different ways to do that. So one, I can just hit Control D, and I can set this to -1.378. And then my orientation's a little off, so let's just try doing, let's see, probably the inverse of everything. Nope. Okay, never mind. So actually the easiest way to do this would just be just group it. And what grouping does is it just puts it inside of another object that we can basically set an attribute on. Or sorry, don't group it yet. Duplicate it, group the duplicate, set that to -1, and you see that mirrors it across. And then I'm just going to move it out of here and call this R. Now, with that in the same place, I can just select them both and freeze all transformations. So now we have a left and a right. And then last thing I want to do, just like I did in class, is I'm going to make a display layer for the left and the right side so I can color code them. So with the left selected, I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to call this L controls. I'm going to make that light blue color. And I'm going to put this in another one called R controls. And let's make this red. So now we have a very quick visual cue as to which ones are on which side. It just kind of keeps it easier for selection purposes as well. So first thing that I want to do is do a point constraint this time. So we're asking, what is the control object? The control object is this box. What are we controlling? First thing that we want to control is the IK handle. And with IK handles, all that you really want to animate is the translation of things. You're just keying where it moves. So to do that, we use a point constraint. So we'll select the constraining object first, and then the object to be constrained. We'll do constrain point, and let's just make sure maintain offset is checked. Reset settings. So with default settings, it'll be unchecked. So let's just check that and click add. And let's just test that real quick. We'll select the object and move it around. Okay, that looks good. So one thing that you might notice here is that her hand moves with and rotates kind of outside of our control. And that's not really something that we want to happen. We want to have control over the hand. So, you know, for example, this character has a weapon that she holds. And when she's walking around and her arms are moving up and down holding this weapon, we don't want her hands to be sliding all over the place too. So, to fix that, you can grab complete control out of that just by selecting this control object and then selecting the wrist bone and doing an orient constraint. So now, not only do we have control over this, you'll see that when we move it around, the hand stays in place. So that does add an extra level of animation that we have to do to key it, but it gives us control that we absolutely need to have her interact with other objects. And you'll notice too, if I select my center of gravity and move her up and down now, the right hand is moving all over and the left hand stays in place until we pull it out of there, because that's just because we're sort of breaking it now. Let's just make sure everything is set to 0. And it is, so let's just do the same thing over on this side now. So we'll select the constraint first, and then the object to be constrained. We will constrain, do a point constraint, and then do it again to the bone and do an orient constraint. So let's just test it. Moving it up and down seems to work, and rotation seems to work. And yep, it all stays in place now. So just like that, we've got our arms almost all set up. Last thing that we want to do is create a pull vector that allows us to give a little bit of rotation of the arm. Because basically we have ball joints in our shoulders that allow us to move in quite a pretty big variety of directions. So for this, let's grab our cubes again. And let's duplicate that. I'm deleting this empty group now. So let's see, cube, that's my duplicate, because there's a little 1 after it. And I'm going to snap this. Basically, I'm going to snap this to the elbow, and then I'm going to move it back, just like we did with the center of gravity control. Scale it down quite a bit. This is just sort of like an aim constraint type thing. We don't want it to interact with the C that's back here too much, so we're going to keep it kind of small. And I'm going to duplicate it now, snap this one to the other elbow. And with both of them selected, I'm going to move them back. Now these, we don't need to keep the pivot right here, because these are just going to be aiming, creating an aim constraint. We do still need to freeze transformations. But let's also first add this. So let's select the left one first. We're going to right click on this layer and do add selected. Let's do the same thing here to the right, add selected. Just make sure, yep, they look good. So let's freeze transformations on both of them. And then we want to select, we'll do the left side first. Let's name this Anim L Pull Arm. And Anim L Pull, or sorry, R Pull Arm. Okay, so this is going to be as simple as selecting this object, and remember, we want it pivoted. Pivot can be in the center of it, but we want it basically snapped from the front to the elbow here. Alright, so select this object, then the IK. We're going to do a pull vector constraint now, which is specific to IK handles. You'll see it sort of snapped the arm a little bit. And that's okay, because we can always kind of move this back out. But what this does, you can see, is it kind of rotates the elbow, so the elbow is always pointing at this object. And let's just do the same thing over here. Constrain, pull vector. Alright. Just look at it from the front, make sure they're both influencing it. Yep, looks about the same. Gonna hit save on that. And now to the feet. Let's try to get through this kind of quick. Control D to duplicate. Let's move this up. And real quick before we actually do that, let's select the animals, these pole arm ones, and put them into the, let's see, into our controls group here. Just middle mouse dragging them in. Make sure I've got them all. Yep. Okay, cool. Hit save. Okay, so I have this duplicate now. I can set this to 0. And we're pretty much going to do the exact same thing. Only difference now is we want this pivoted to the ankle. So let's just get that snapped in there. And look at the front, make sure it's snapped just right. And it seems to be. I'm going to duplicate it now before I forget. And oh, actually, no, I don't have the shape yet. So let's get the shape right first. I'm going to snap this to the bottom of the feet. And I'm going to move these down quite a bit. Now these I want to move over. I want to make sure that I'm not crossing my center line axis here. So let's see. Okay, these can be kind of brought in. Again, this is just for visual reference. This does not actually have to be a perfect bounding box for the shoe or anything. It's kind of up to you how you want to do it. This is just how I like to do it. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So this is going to be anim L foot. And so for this one, I'm actually going to do the duplicate and then group it because I want it, because of how I did this adjustment, I sort of have a bit of an offset. So I'm just doing -1 on the group. Move this up out of the group. Call it anim R foot foot. And you see that that's now a perfect mirror. I can delete this empty group now. I can move this up into my controls, and let's take the left, add it to left control. Take the right, add it to right control. So we've got our nice color coding going on. And now, same deal. We want to do a point constraint to the IK handle. And let's just do this one step at a time on both sides. I just hit G to do the same thing. So let's test these now. And we select our controls and move them up and down. Yep. But you can see rotation doesn't do anything yet. And let's undo all of that because obviously, as you probably just saw, I did not freeze transformations first, which flipped my rotation axis. So it's another reason to freeze transformations is your axes can get messed up with rotation. So let's try that again. So constrain, point, constrain, point, and that one looks good, and that one. Wait, hold on, I missed something there. I think I deselected it. There we go. So you'll still have to do some custom stuff because her shoelaces are getting stuck to the other foot and stuff like that. Let's double check this rotation issue. Yeah, they're going both the same now. Alright, so last thing now is to select this one, and we're going to select the smaller joint in here, which is the foot bone, and we're going to do a constrain orient to that. And same thing on the other side. Get the smaller one in here. No, that's both. We want the smaller one. Come on. There we go. And we'll do constrain orient again. And now, let's see. Yep, we got that, and we got them both. So last thing I want to do is a little bit of cleanup. Again, scale is not going to be an issue with this one, so let's freeze. Let's hide and lock those. However, we do want rotate and translate still, so don't lock that yet. For this, all that we want is translate for this. We don't want rotate or scale. So you can see that I can shift select both of them, and I can hide and lock both at the same time. Let's see. Did I miss any other ones? Yeah, I think I missed a few of these while I was going through. So I'm just doing overall cleanup now and just hiding and locking anything I'm not going to be using. Neck, yeah, so I only want rotation on the neck. Okay, I think the rest are good. So these, again, I can shift select these. Just scale is all that we want to lock and hide. Okay, so let's do the pole vectors now. And we're going to use the cube again, duplicate. Let's do this one real quick. Move it up out of here. Let's snap this up to the knee. And again, we just need it snapped to sort of the front. We're going to scale it down. And this one, we want to move forward. And then let's just duplicate that and snap to here. Let's check the front and make sure. Okay. So let's call this one anim L knee. We'll call it pole knee. And anim right pole knee. Let's freeze transformations on these. And let's do one at a time. Add them to our layers. So left first, add, and right, add. So that looks good. Okay, so now we just want the IK handle, the control first, then the IK handle, constrain, pole vector, and same thing over here. Might be a little tricky because mine are so close. And just constrain, pole vector. Let's just check this out. Yep, seems to be working. All right, so that's looking pretty good. There's my other one. So we want to just middle mouse drag these into the controls group. So that's not doing a parenting, it's just doing a grouping. But it's pretty much the same thing, except that I can select them underneath. And let's see, let's move this around now and see what we get. And everything should be parented now, so I should be able to move this and scale the whole rig. Yep, I can, so that's good. So last thing that I want to show you guys is, you're not going to see it on her at all because of the scarf and everything, but in case you wanted like the ability to shrug and do a little bit of extra shoulder control, we're going to create clavicle constraints, and that really will wrap it up. Besides that, there is a more complex foot roll that I'd like to show at some point, but I might just send you, there's some people that have probably explained it better than I will, and there's a few other custom things that I can show you in a little bit. But first of all, let's grab our box, or our square here. I'm going to duplicate that. This is going to be our clavicle control. So let's go to the front view. This one I want to rotate forward. I want to be able to look at it from the front view. So let's set this to 90. And again, this is going to be another one that we have to actually offset because there's too much going on in here. But first we want to snap it here. So we'll call this anim L clavicle. And while we're here, well, no, I'm going to do the whole, I'll do that in a second. I'm going to do the mirror thing. Let me just make sure it's snapped in every pivot. It seems to be. So with that actually selected, I can actually just go into my component mode here, and I can kind of move everything around this way. Then I won't have to redo my pivot at all. So for her, I'm going to scale it down, kind of move it out of the way here. And just want it to be like an indication that, you know, okay, we rotate this. So I think that's pretty good. I like this little sort of box thing. And it still rotates from that pivot, you can see. Let's check it to the right. I want to make sure that it's flat, and it is. So I'm going to freeze transformations on this. Before anything else, though, I'm going to duplicate this and group that duplicate. We're going to go to scale, -1. And let's move that back out. Up here, this is going to be my right clavicle. And let's delete this group. We'll just go through here and do this real quick. Add it to the left and add it to the right. Just hitting save real quick. And now we're just going to want to do an orient constraint of the clavicle to the clavicle bone. So let's do an orient. And one more orient constraint. All right, let's test that out. So you can see that gives me just a little bit of extra control over the shoulder. Again, on her, it doesn't really do a whole lot, but you can do like a shrugging thing. If I were to hide, say this, you could see, you know, you can do a little bit of shrugging control here. So obviously I still need to paint some weights and everything, but you might want to skin your character anyway, even if you're not planning on doing it in the long run. Just doing a really basic skin, because it just gives you a little bit better feedback as to how everything is moving. But that does it for this rig. So we have taken this pretty much as far as my other rigs that I've shown off in class. I'll take about a minute to show you a few extra things that you might want to look up, and I'd be happy to answer questions on. So I'm going to hit... well, let me undo until I get the scarf back. Hit Control S, save that. But yeah, I think this is looking pretty good at this point. One last thing, I can clean this up, and let's lock and hide everything but rotation. And looks like I forgot to freeze transformations on this one, so I'd want to undo this control. I'm just going to delete it. Let's do that. No. I'm not going to show through how to do that, but yeah, I forgot to freeze transformations on this, so I should probably go through and do that and reconnect this. But for the most part, this is all looking pretty good. And actually, this wouldn't even be the end of the world. I just need to remember that everything is just a little bit off. But I should fix that. Anyway, moving forward. Oh. Where'd my group go? Sorry. Just gonna move these into my control group. And everything works, so saving that. And let's make sure I didn't forget. Yes, I did freeze on that. I just didn't freeze on this one. All right. So anyway, real quick, I'm going to open my Spaceman Spiff model. I want to show you a little bit of extra stuff that I did on that. Let's just save this. So I'm not going to show you how yet, but you can, just to show you that you can do this, you can do basically create attributes and make, so for this case, I basically use set-driven keys to create these attributes that when I increase them, they actually rotate all the bones in my hand. So I have middle, you know, so that's like if I wanted to do like just a basic overall global grip on something, I can do that pretty easily. And it's literally just creating, you create an attribute and then create a set-driven key saying when, basically when this is at this rate, then, you know, as this goes up by 1, then rotate these 5 elements by 15 or whatever arbitrary thing you want to set. So that's something that can be pretty useful. For our walk cycle, we're not going to really have to worry about that too much. But lastly, I also added a... let's see, where are my bones? Do I have them hidden? Yeah, let's turn these back on. Oh, wait, do I not have it in this model? I thought I did. Okay, I do have it. I don't know where those bones went. So I have a foot roll, and there's basically, this is kind of a weird process where you have to build, you duplicate this process and then have another bone down the side here. And you create like this, an attribute that allows you to rotate just the foot and kind of roll it. So it's again set-driven keys that tell it to rotate that much at 0.5, and then at 1 it goes up to there. So I'll share a link to a video on how to do that if you decide you want to do that. You can see my skinning is a little bit off still, so I need to fix a few things on this character. But those are 2 cool things that you can look up. And if you have questions and you just think that you want to add that to your model, you know, just let me know. I'd be happy to share with you how to do that. But that does it for this video. I hope that these are all very helpful for you guys. I know that this process can be pretty different from everything that we've done so far. It can be a little bit challenging because it's a very different way to think about things. But yeah, I think these video references should help. Definitely don't be afraid to ask me any questions, and I will see you all next week.